Hello everyone, I am Srijata Bhatnagar, a setback leader, a global speaker, and an author, and your host for the Setback Leadership Podcast. In this season, we are talking about breaking glass ceilings, stereotypes, and other limiting beliefs. And we have guests from all across the world coming and sharing their thought process around the same. Leaders who have been there, done that. As part of that, in today's episode, we have someone who I know as one of the most positive leaders in the entire world. Why do I say so? Well, Afeef Hussain is not only a well read, well traveled, well educated, and well meaning person, but he is also the Regional Director of Human Resources, Training, and Quality Assurance of LUX Resorts in Maldives. He advocates the way of getting things done for others' benefits. He is a person who believes that his job is there because of his people. How many leaders do you think believe something like that? Afeef also happens to be the founder and president of Maldives Associations of HR Professionals, and he also is the founder of Toastmasters Club by MAHRP, that is Maldives Association of HR Professionals. Other than being a great HR leader, Afeef is a well-read, well-traveled, well-mindset person. He is so positive that he always sees opportunities among any challenges. And I love the fact how he nurtures himself as a leader while he nurtures his people. When I talked to him about why he does what he does, he said he is here to serve others as a leader. And he believes in personal and professional development. And he also said that he wants to create a legacy while he leaves this world for eternity. Why did he say these things? And what does he mean by all of this? All this and more in the conversation with Afeef Hussain today. Let's hop right in. Hi Afeef, welcome to the show, and it's so great to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, it's lovely to be connected again, and I'm looking forward for our conversation today.
Same here. I'm so looking forward for the conversation because I know you are going to add a lot of value to our listeners. So let's get straight into it, shall we?
Yes, of course. Go ahead. Yes.
Awesome. So I will start with the first basic question. As you know, this particular podcast is all about glass ceilings, breaking it, and making sure that you break stereotypes and go towards your growth. So let me straight ask you this question. What does glass ceiling mean to you?
This is a very interesting topic or a point that I just discuss a lot, not just within the senior leadership in business, but specifically within certain domains. So, like even in the domain where I have a lot of passion about it, human resources or various aspects of human resources, and even in leadership. So, to me, it really means doing something or reaching to a level or achieving a particular uh, thing or a project or a specific achievement where majority of the people believes that it will not be done or it cannot be done or is not reachable or they can't do it, because we do have this view where we sometimes think that, well, I don't think it will happen because history has shown us that it will not work that way, or the data or the research shows that it will not happen that way. So one one taking these extra steps and additional effort, and one putting a strategy in place to really go that extra mile and make that happen. That's where you really reach the ceiling and break the ceiling, refers as person, as far as my own perspective is concerned, achieving that target or showing to other people that you see, you all of you said it cannot be done and we did it, and here's the result of it. So there are quite a lot of examples, I'm sure, in our conversation. Along the way we will share some of them. So that's how I see it.
Absolutely. What otherwise was thought that it is not possible to be achieved, once you achieve it, you have broken the glass ceiling. No matter which space you are in, no matter which, which professional, personal space and situation you are in, if you have broken something that you originally thought that you can't break it, if you have done something that you originally thought you can't do it, I think that is what is glass ceiling. Beautifully said, Afeef. So, Afif, I know you are a big guy in the Maldives. Okay, and I say it with a lot of respect and a lot of admiration towards you, because I know your work, how much work you do, and how people adore you in Maldives, right? I've seen it personally, I have seen it myself. So as a regional director of HR, and for the one of the biggest resorts in the Maldives, and you take care of your employees so beautifully well, so what are the ethos behind those? How do you make sure that all these limiting beliefs, the stereotypes, the glass ceilings, and the other challenging beliefs that people have are taken away from their system, and how do you go forward with that?
Yeah, you see, for me, I am someone that always believe, probably for the past 15 years, where I'm mostly involved in human resource training and developing people and the organizational change. I believe that I have a job because of people. And so, if you believe that you have a job because of the people, you come to work every day to serve people. And I believe what goes wrong in most of the organizations is where you come to work because you have to be in there for the job, not because you want to come to work. I come to work because I want to serve people. So that is the first thing. That helps me to do whatever it takes. So which means if I come to work knowing that I want to serve people, I want to add value to people, the limiting factors or the external factors that may impact my decisions or to get things done or reaching that ceiling or breaking through the ceiling will not even be in account, because I know that I have a passion and desire to serve people, so I'll do whatever it takes. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that because of what we do, we see that lives change. We see people become better because of our presence. And my definition of leadership has always been that as leaders, our job is to make the lives of other people better because of our presence, from small things to bigger things that we do. So this is really the key 2 point. And I think the third point is that end of the day, we all going to leave this world one day. And I think the legacy that we leave behind are the followers, the leaders that we create, and of course, followers making them better because of our presence, but creating more leaders. And I know that during my years serving in the Maldives and also other countries that I have worked, and even in the Maldives, specifically in the last 5 years, and the interesting thing is, in our race in looking after people, there is no end to it. Every day you get more things to do. The more you do, the more there is to do, actually. The less you do, you find less to do. So I think that's the kind of race we are in. And I take that with great humility. And I'm humbled by the support that I get. And obviously, not everybody sometimes may like it, but I think generally, majority believes that the work that we do is well received, whether me serving to the local community or serving to my team here in LUX Resorts and Hotels, two Maldives properties.
Neat. I mean, in just 5 minutes, Afif, you gave out such brilliant pointers for anybody who wants to be a great leader. I'm going to pick those out, and I really want to pick those out right now, because I want people to take note of it now, right now, till before it goes till the end. Summary will happen later. I think the first thing that caught my attention is that you said, my job is because of people. I am here because of people. I think that's a brilliant thought process. As a leader, such a big, achiever, high achiever, overachiever leader, you talking like that talks about the humility that you have. I have to admit to that. That's first thing that caught my attention. Second thing that I really loved was you said that you know you are here to make others job easy. As a leader, your job is to make others job easy, others time easy. I think if every leader in this world thought like that, then the world would be a much better place.
Yeah,
Right. I
absolutely.
think,
Yeah,
what would you say to that? I mean, I don't see many leaders thinking like this.
How did you manage to do this?
This is what we see in the world right now. Because if everyone comes to work because they know they have certain number of people that they have to serve, whether it's in the organization or in their city or the town or even the country, we have seen great leaders like that comes to work knowing that one day they have to leave the job and the world, so they are going to do the best that they can. We have seen, I mean, I always use this example of the Singapore Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, and every day he comes to work, he knew one day he'll have to leave the country, so he wants to leave a better country. And one of my mentors, Ron Kaufman, which I'm sure you know, and we are connected in the lane of speaking and professional development, Ron always used to say, leave people better than you found them. So I also say, leave places, countries, organizations better than. So my driving factor is that one day I'm going to leave this organization. When I leave, that is better than when I joined this organization, and people are going to see that. And I think that cannot be done in one day. So you have to do this every day. It has to be repeated every day. And I believe this is what's missing in the world, and not just here in the Maldives in some organizations, so to a bigger level, but also around the world.
Very true, very, very true. And in fact, you're talking about legacy made me realize that I have the same dream. I'm going to leave this world someday. What am I going to leave behind? What am I going to let people know me for? That's a question that I always ask myself. I mean, people get scared of death, right? And I say, listen, death is inevitable. That's going to come to you someday or the other, right? It's not a gloomy thing. It's not something that you should say, oh my God, death, like that, right? But it is something that you should say, listen, I have to anyways reach that. That is my final destination. But along the way, what have I achieved? What have I done? What have I left for my family, for my organization, for my country, and beyond?
Correct.
That creates that legacy, right? I think that's a brilliant thought, Afif. I mean, I completely resonate with you on that. And yes, Ron Kaufman's saying that leave people better than you found them is brilliant, and leave places better than you found them is brilliant too, right? I mean, that's the crux of it. I think we don't even need to see the entire episode today. The audiences are going to already find their, I would say, those pearls of wisdoms in the 5 minutes into the show, right? That's the kind of talk that we are having right now. So I want to take the conversation a little ahead and talk about it, about yourself. You said you have 15 plus years of experience in the, in the leadership in this industry and more, right? So I want to ask you, how was Afeef 15 years back, and how did you become the way you are today?
Yeah, I've always, obviously, when I finished my high school, I had the opportunity to go and study in Malaysia. Then I traveled around the world, and I've been always someone who was really very much into exploring, and I'm curious about what the world has to offer. I'm curious about understanding what we are getting right now. Is that what we are entitled to get, or what we're supposed to get? So obviously, and obviously sometimes feeling entitled, one can stay in the place that they are and not wanting to go beyond. But I'm someone who always observe what other countries are doing, what other companies are doing, and also from a personal professional growth, what do you have to get from where you are to where you want to go. And the second thing is I always love stories of people who are successful, but more importantly, what's the story behind their success? Because a lot of the time we see the success and we think, oh, this amazing, maybe they were lucky, but when you study, you find there's a lot of hard work behind it. There's a lot of failure. So I study them, and I was always inspired with that. And I believe one of the, if you look back into 15 years ago, for example, even back then, I did live with this global mindset of that one day I'm going to serve my people, but also I'm going to serve around the world with that global mindset. And I believe the global mindset is when you, wherever you are, whether, for example, in my time I've worked in Dubai, I have lived in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and I've always knew when I was in Singapore, I knew that I'm a citizen of another country, but serving the Singaporeans in the country there. So I had a different mindset, and but I knew that I had to go back one day to Maldives and serve my people. So I think this whole mindset of exploring curiosity, the global mindset, was who I was, and that mindset helped me to get where I am today. So because you had that mindset, you have to take certain actions. You have to travel, you have to study, you have to, and I'm somebody who spends a lot of time, money, energy investment on my professional growth. And I believe that helped me to where I am today. And again, I think as we have this conversation, it's important to understand that, like I said earlier, we have a job because of the people, and we have to make other people's life better because of pressure. But you can't make other people's life better unless you make yourself better, because you can't give from an empty cup. You have to pour in more wisdom and knowledge and intellectual thinking into you so you can transfer it to other people or share it with other people. And Srijata, you are in the land of speaking and delivering sessions and inspiring the world. So you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure the listeners in our program will also understand the same.
Yeah, so true, so true. So tell me something. Was Afif always like this? You talking about the backstory behind every success, right? I want to know Afif's backstory right here, right now. Tell us what has been your backstory of success. I know it has not been a rosy ride or a rosy path for you. So give us a little bit scoop on your failures or setbacks or the challenges that you faced along the way, and how did you maneuver through those, or the stereotypes that you faced, or even certain glass ceilings maybe you faced in your in your career. It has been a coveted, decorated career for you for years, right? And I'm sure it did not come easy, did it?
No, no, it is very tough. And obviously the and you know where Maldives is a developing country, so obviously if you are from the Maldives, there's a lot of challenges compared to a country which is large resources. And so you don't get things just by wishing and feeling entitled. You have to work for it. So I had a lot of failures and a lot of times where eh, things didn't happen when I needed that to happen. Even in high school, I wasn't a bright student, and at one point I realized I had to study more harder, and then I started seeing the results coming through. But when I look back at, let's say, in the last even 20 years or so, I always had this mindset of that I am going to get it done, and I will do it. So at times when I encounter a failure, or when I encounter a setback, or when I encounter a situation whereby it seems almost not possible, I take a step back, I think about it, I rethink how I can do it, and I re energize myself, my mind, and then I recreate a new strategy to achieve what I want to achieve. So I think, in a summary, this is really what helped me to become who I am today, whether it's my job or whether it's the association that I'm the president and I co-founded with two other partners from the Maldives, or whether even starting the Maldives Toastmasters and all the other projects that I do. And the key point for me has always been the mindset of let's get it done and we have to make it happen. So if you have that mindset, of course, maybe for in a week, 5 days could be days where you don't get it done, but then you have the other 2 days where you put extra effort and you make it happen. So I would say that is really a summary of how I have seen myself. Even now I see it that way, but definitely 20 years ago, that's really the situation where I was.
Lovely, lovely. I think the mindset of let's get it done is another pearl of wisdom that we picked up during this conversation. Listeners, please do not take away your attention somewhere else. Today's episode is gold. I must tell you that, right? And please dig those gold out for your growth, for your professional growth, and your team's growth. So, with that, Afif, you run a huge team. You have a big team, right? And I have met some of them personally, and I know they're amazing. Each one of them are amazing, whether they are, low in the cadre, or whether they're high in the cadre. All of them have a brilliant mindset, brilliant, positive, beautiful mindset. I want to ask you this. Have you ever had to come through a situation where a particular team member was was going through a challenging situation or a challenging mindset, maybe some kind of a stereotype, some kind of a glass ceiling, or some kind of challenge, where you had to intervene and you helped them come out of that challenge. Can you give us any example
Yeah,
like that?
this is a very interesting topic, and I like to link this really with a book that I recently read by Adam Grant, Think Again, which I'm sure you must have heard about it. And to all the listeners, if you love reading this book, this is a fantastic book. And the reason why I share this is it's not just a book; it's a whole masterclass on human psychology and how we think. A lot of the time, for example, let's take one example and then link this with. We talk about a team member who believes that he is ready for promotion, but he didn't get the promotion at the time that he thought he will get the promotion.
Hmm.
So he may say, well, I'm ready. I know I'm ready. Okay. But there are other people in the promotion board or the promotion team, the team who will decide on the promotion, that believes that he is not. Because being in an organization for a long time or doing something for a long time, the number of years doesn't really mean anything unless competence and the confidence comes along the way. So what my role has always been, I was doing that, but when I read the book, I realized I'm doing this psychological thing with the people because they believe they're ready. So my job has always been to help them to rethink how they're thinking about it. So I would ask questions and say, what makes you believe that you are ready? And then I would ask some question, and along that conversation, I find out that actually there are things that they are not aware that they should be doing to get into this promotion. Just on this specific example,
Yeah.
help them to think and say, well, look, I think you should be doing that. And I think this is how you should communicate. And I think this is what you should do because in this position, this is what is required. Because once you get promotion in the new role, you don't have time to learn about anything. You should already be doing it in your existing job. And when I help them to rethink, and obviously the rethinking process is more around asking questions. So I ask questions and then they find it, they say, wow, yeah, that's true. And then they apply this whole question and the answers that they get in the whole new way they do it. 80% of those stories and situations I've seen came out as very successful because I do follow up with them and say, look, how did it go after 2 weeks? And most of them would tell. So and this also goes back to there's this tendency within the HR professionals, not just here in the Maldives, but more also in the South Asia and Southeast Asia, that HR people don't get seats in the boardrooms or board meetings, which is considered as breaking the glass ceiling or breaking the barriers. But
Yes.
nobody's going to come and say to you, well, here's a seat, would you like to come and be in the seat? You have to do a lot of things for many many years to get into the seat, to get into that board, and you have to show people that you are a necessity for your organization. And you do that by upgrading yourself, elevating your mindset, and being in the right place at the right time, not because somebody asked you to be there, but because you saw there was a need in it. And I think this whole process is what I use, whether it's a career development related thing for a colleague or a personal challenge that they have, or somebody who wants to leave the organization after many years. And sometimes, I mean, I have to say, sometimes there may be a colleague who has been in the organization for 10 years and they want to leave. It's very hard for us to let them go. But my rethinking process, if that is what they want, I respect their decision, and I would do my best to help them exit the organization, because how I see leadership and making other people's lives better because of my presence is that even if they're performing outside the organization somewhere else, as long as they add value to people and perform at their best, I'm happy. So that's what I've been kind of following, and I think there's a lot of points in that, but overall, this is how the process works.
Lovely, lovely. I mean, I think that's a beautiful take on leadership. That's a beautiful take on helping people come out of their limiting beliefs, right? I mean, there are people who are not even aware that there are some limitations that are there in their mind, and as leaders, it's our job is to make them realize that very soothingly, comfortably, and at the same time, very, very compassionately, so that, they're not feeling bad about it. At the same time, they're aware that they need to upgrade themselves and in a better way. I think you are one of the best mentors I have seen for your employees. I know your employees rave about you, they always talk highly about you, and this I'm telling in a live show where your employees have told me that they really, really adore and respect you. So that talks about the kind of work that you do as a leader, right? In not only in your organization, but you have also started, founded this Maldives HR Association's HR Professionals Club, as well as the Maldives Toastmasters. What was the reason behind you starting it?
Yeah, we saw a need in our community. And Maldives, as I said, as a developing country, there's a lot of things we need to put in place. And obviously, as a developing country, too, you need to develop a lot of professional because human capital is the biggest asset in any country where you need to invest in people. And we thought that bringing an association like that will just help us to focus and bring global best practices, connect with other associations and NGOs around the world, and really help them. And the same thing goes with the Toastmasters. Toastmasters' main objective is obviously to develop people to improve their speaking and help them to gain more confidence in terms of how they speak, but also developing more leaders. So we saw a real need in the organization, in the country, and obviously various organizations around the world, and that motivated us to do something for them, not wanting anything in return. This is a selfless service, and I believe the best way to create a legacy is to provide a selfless service or do something that is selfless. And it has been a wonderful journey for us. And obviously, together with me, I also have Ahmad Ibrahim, Ali Adam, who are the co-founders. There's an exco behind it, and my job obviously as the president and the co-founders to make sure that the purpose of the organization, why we founded the organization, is sustained. In obviously we are quite still very young, only 3 years, and we have many more years to go. So I believe that we should just continue with that. But and the point here is that if you see a need in an organization, in the company, in your community, don't wait for someone. No one asks us to do this. And in fact, we had people who say, well, it's not going to work in the Maldives because we don't really have it. And all those thought thought process came. And there are more people who say, well, I think you should not do it rather than saying you should do it, which is common in the world anyway. But when we did it, we actually went beyond the ceiling many times on many things. Like we had the first ever international HR conference in the Maldives, where we flew speakers from at least 10 countries. And and that's the point, that's really what I believe our conversation is also today is about. You see a need, people are going to say, I think you should do it, or it's not possible, but you do it, and doing that can inspire a lot of people.
So true, so true. I think don't wait for somebody else to take those actions. I'm really heavy on taking actions. You tell me to do something, I will do it right then if you really want to do it. And I also preach the same thing to others. I said there is no point learning if you are not implementing. Learning without implementing is zero learning, zero, I would say, benefit out of it. There is no point you are being the epitome of knowledge, whereas you don't know how to implement it and how to use it or channelize it to the right direction. So yes, I totally agree with you on that do not wait for somebody else to come and take action on your behalf. Even if there is no one else taking action, what is stopping you to take that action as a leader, right? And that is what makes you different from somebody else. I'm totally resonating with what you're saying. And yes, MARP happens to be one of the best HR associations that I have seen so far. And you guys are doing really, really well. That's a brilliant initiative. And Toastmasters Club that you have started is also, it's like nascent. A few months back you guys started this, isn't it? And it is already doing so well. And I think that's where the need and the action collided, and beautiful results are coming out. I mean, I really am very, very happy to see it working so beautifully.
Yeah, no, I
So
think if you look into MAP, what we have achieved, obviously we have in 3 years you've done great things. But I think I always say that what we did yesterday, if it was great, today is good. So we have to always keep finding more. So there are some great projects and activities that are coming, and obviously now we live in a very challenging time because of the pandemic. The way we used to work has changed dramatically. So we have to adjust and evolve, which is really the process that we are going through right now.
Yes, and in fact, I want to ask you that question. I was about to ask you regarding the pandemic, like the country as a whole, right? Maldives as a country as a whole relies heavily on tourism, and tourism was the worst hit industry due to pandemic, right? But I also see, you guys beautifully coming out of that challenge and quickly with all the protocols in place, all the things taken care in the place. And recently the Maldives was awarded the best safest country to travel, right? I mean, how on earth did you manage to do that? That's my question.
Yeah, so so Maldives itself is a very interesting country. When it comes to crisis, there's a tendency where everybody gets together and there's unity. And I always imagine if we use the same unity, even in normal times, we will be even better. I believe the resilience that we have seen in our leaders and the nation was just phenomenal. Obviously, I mean, in the Maldives, 80% of the economic revenue or the revenue we earn from economic occupation comes from related to the tourism industry. Out of 10% that goes to work, 6% belongs to the hospitality industry. So just imagine how big it is. So I think in that regard, what we did was what was really required to survive, because we didn't have other natural resources, and we were really challenged. So we stood up and said, well, we are going to open the border on 15th of July, which we did. And then thereafter, we were adjusting because the virus was evolving, the public health guidelines were evolving. So as it went, we also evolved. Where we are today is just incredible. This is not over, I believe, far from over, but at least we can consider as a good case study for a lot of the countries. And also geographically, I believe, we're fortunate because each island is separate. So if the virus spreads in one island or one city, it doesn't go just like that. You immediately shut down that island and nobody will travel. So I think we had that fortunate because of naturally and geographically how Modis is located. But overall, I think the work and the effort by the leaders, the industry, the stakeholders made a huge impact in coming through. So there's a great case study, and I believe already the World Tourism Organizations, UNWTO, they're developing various papers to show to other people what Modis did. But again, we're a unique country because a very small country, 500,000 people, you can't really compare. But there's something you can learn from it, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I must agree to that because see, I mean, I always believe that when you are confronted with challenges, big, huge, audacious, scary challenges, is when the best version of you comes out. I innately believe that, right? And I see Maldives you know, doing it in reality. Because think about it, 80% of your revenue comes from tourism industry, and you became the best nation, the safest nation to travel in the pandemic. This is incredible. Yes, of course there are geographical or natural I would say advantages that a country like Maldives has, but even then I would say it happened only because there was a challenge and you had to go past that to do whatever is right for your occupational requirements, for your people, for your revenues, and for your country to as a function. And I think that is where Maldives is the case study that you're rightly mentioning. We should all look up to that. I want to bring you a little bit closer to your workplace in Lux that you do, right? You do a lot of work in Lux, I know, from a point of view of personal and professional development, right? So what has been your specific work that you did to align your team, align your folks to the pandemic, and making sure that everyone, and I mean everyone, is safe while you're doing these tasks?
Yeah. Well, the specifically this last 18 months have been, I would say, an amazing journey of the process of unlearning the things that I've learned before and relearning new things. And one of the things that I really had to look into is that because when this happened, obviously everybody was concerned, and even the leaders in different levels, whether they are junior leaders or senior leaders, they were a bit confused, and they said, what's going to happen? And I still remember that when I mean, I've never experienced a pandemic. I'm sure you are probably, all the most of the listeners who listen to this must have not experienced something, because this happens once in a century. So, or once in every, let's say, 75 years or 50. So when this happened, I saw there's a lot of confusion and people didn't know what to do, and I immediately realized that this is the time to serve and lead. So I didn't stay back and said we're going to wait and see, because there are many countries, organizations where they said, oh well, we're going to wait and see what's going to happen. We were preparing, so I had to look at it, okay, how we're going to address this closure of the resort, how we're going to address this whole public health and safety thing, and how we're going to make people wear masks and all this different. That was the easy part. You implement the process, they did it. But what was really amazing is that we had to close the resort and we sent everybody back home. And I remember, and this is really the message I want to give to the listeners, that believing that you have a job because of people and doing it. It's easy to say that. But when we closed the resort, we sent all the team members around the island. There's over 600 of them. And at the time, I was the head of the resort because there was no general manager. So I was in charge of everything and anything. So I said to everyone that, so we have to send them, right? So we organize their ticket and borders are closing. So we line up to send all of them on leave, and they all had my number. So I gave my contact number and said, if there's anything you can reach me, call me directly. And when they were going to home, for example, we had about 70 colleagues from India, and they were all in different parts, and India was bracing up to for a quick lockdown. And our objective was to send them before the lockdown happens to their home. And so I was in touch with them from the moment they left the resort to the Malay International Airport, to Mumbai Airport, and from Mumbai to their home city or hometown, wherever they go. And when they reach home, obviously I check and they reach home and they're fine. And that gives me the pleasure of knowing I have done my job. And I did that for every single team member. I mean, I did it. I had a team here too, but I did it. And you know why? Because I wanted them to show that, yes, we have closed the resort, but we care for you. And we want you to be back to work. And when we reopened, all the team members came back to work. And if you study this example, why they did it, because they I personally had town halls for them virtually every month. So they were all in touch with me via Facebook. And a lot of the leaders, there is this tendency in the world and belief that, oh, well, if I give my number, you see, I told I gave my number. But the listeners on this podcast may think, oh, God, you're going to be very busy. You see, that's a belief that we have. By giving the number, you basically saying, I trust you that you will call me when you need me. How many employees out of 600 do you think call me? It's probably less than 50. But at least they knew I trusted them to give my number, that they can reach me anytime they want. Not wanting them to call me like every 5 minutes. I know they won't. But it is breaking that barrier again, right? Because some leaders will say, oh, no, 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 I don't want to see, they have to go to the next step. I mean, I had a team here, but I did it because I want, and obviously the payback time is now. So they're back to the resort and they saw how we were caring for them. And the whole idea of that care and believing in that and doing that was one of the most important thing which I practiced during that pandemic, and still we're doing. And we're seeing that team members acknowledging and appreciating that, and saying, for example, a team member may have a situation and say, well, I've made a decision, but I don't know who's going to talk. And say, well, you should go and speak to Afeef and his team, because those guys during the pandemic, they were at home, and I was checking on them once in a while. And that And you see, here's the thing. I believe Maya Angelou said that there's a very famous saying that people will may forget what you said, the words you use, and what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. In the pandemic time, how we made them feel is the benefit we are getting them now. They all return to work. In many organizations, people didn't return to work, and they said, "Well, we find a job somewhere else and things." And this is a lesson that everybody. I consider this as leadership. And again, you reinvent how you lead when in time of crisis, and that's one thing I did, and obviously did benefit us and me and our team itself. So
Lovely, lovely. And I have to agree with you on this completely. How you made them feel is going to be definitely very, very important. And, this is important for leaders to understand that you need to be able to trust your people. If you don't trust them, they are not going to trust you back. If you don't give them with all of it that you have, they are not going to reciprocate. So it has to start from you as a leader. In India, there is a recent trend going on. Employees are leaving organizations. Okay, they're just randomly quitting, and attrition rate after the pandemic has become really, really high. So some of us sat together, some of us who constantly discuss about leadership, move, change, etc., etc. We were sitting together and we were discussing that what could be the reason behind it, right? So it has nothing to do with the salary, the growth, the office space, or anything else. What we came to realize is that it has got to do with how their leaders made them feel during the pandemic and still making them feel, because 80% of the workforce is still working from home, right? So the trust factor, because in India we have never seen work from home as a big thing before the pandemic, right? And now that work from has become inevitable, so the trust factor has increased. In one side you have organization which is asking employees to click on the computer screen once in half an hour, once in 45 minutes, to make them know that yes, they are available. On the other side, you have organizations who are allowing their employees all the flexibility, embracing their family, embracing all the disturbances that's happening during the meetings and so on and so forth, and being compassionate. And I'm here saying no points for guessing which companies are doing better here.
no, you're
Right?
right, because I think the way we work uh, in all areas have changed, specifically because of the pandemic. So to me, productivity is not the number of hours or the number of clicks you do in an hour on your computer. It's getting the job done. So if your team delivers the job, if they do it, trust that. And of course, in different domains of work is different. Like in the service, if I'm a receptionist, you have to come to work physically. So your product is counted by the hours and the effort that you put in the service you give. But meanwhile, if you're somebody who edits, for example, who's in the IT domain, you can work from home. You don't necessarily have to click your computer a half hour to show you are there, as long as you get the job done. And I think that mindset is going to take a while to change. But I believe at least we're off to a good start.
Yeah, true. Now, at this point in time, I want to ask you, as the HR leader, right? What would you suggest organizations who are struggling at this point in time to keeping their employees engaged, motivated, productive, and also helping them to stay in the organization happily without getting bonkers completely? What would be your suggestion to them? How do you think they can you know I would say dodge or tackle the current situation to get the best outputs?
Yeah, I like to make 3 points. And number one is that obviously there's a lot of reason why people will stay in the company, and one of the reason is definitely how much you put effort into their personal and professional growth. Because even if you give them a promotion or salary increment or bonus, I mean, these things people spend, this is basics, it's not nothing fancy about it. But if you make them better by investing in their professional personal growth, they can take these skills and they will be better in their competencies, current competencies and future competencies they need for the future jobs. So focus on that. Focus on personal professional growth. Invest in them and make plans and programs and have somebody who follows through. I think this is really important. Obviously, one of the element of professional growth is also coaching and mentoring. So do that. And the second point is it is very, very important as HR professionals and organizational leaders to care for your people. And care means you do things physically rather than just saying we do it. So check on people. And in fact, I started writing a document and I haven't finished it, which is basically 101 ways of adding value as a leader, as a professional. And one of the things is, for example, if it's someone's birthday, imagine you're the leader in the organization, you call them or send them a text message. Forget about the Facebook, because Facebook sends you a reminder, you write it, and everybody does it. Who doesn't do it? Right? Probably in future, maybe Facebook will come up with a technology whereby it's your birthday and you draft the message and it will post for you automatically. You don't have to do it. But it makes a huge difference when you pick up the phone. And I remember this example many years ago. I learned from the co-founder of Southwest Airlines, and Harp Keller. He passed away already. And Harp Keller, every Christmas, New Year, and Christmas period, he would actually visit all the airports and cities and states where Airline operates, and he will give a personal hug to every single employee. And he passed away now for many years ago, but obviously the company is still there. And one of the best budget airline in the world, in fact, Southwest Airlines, is in the core is the care. And the third thing is that you have to become better because of all of this. So you can't give to other people and you can't train and make other people better if you don't do things for yourself. So keep your health as a very important thing, your mental wellness as an important thing, and look after yourself. I think a lot of the leaders they forget or they intentionally don't know how to do it. I have to say that my survival in the past 18 months has been with a specific focus of myself. Every day I connect with my creator. Every day I practice fitness exercise. It could be a yoga, breathing, or a running and jogging or a gym activity. And I do my best to eat in a way that, for example, 3 meals and make sure that there's obviously good stuff in there. And when you do that, you're in a good frame of mind, which can serve other people and do what you do best. So I think these three things are really important to give back to the
So
organization.
true, so true. I mean, I'm heavy on professional development and personal development of the folks in the organizations. I also believe that coaching and mentoring is something that needs to be done for everyone. For everyone. It is not only for the senior leadership, it is not only for the CXOs. It has to be done from the bottom level, because you're preparing the leaders of the future. And if you're not preparing them now, you won't have solid leadership in few years time from now. And of course, your own health, your mental and physical health is really, really important. Thank you for bringing these three out. We're almost towards the end of the conversation. I want you to now focus on our leaders themselves, right? Not as an organization, but as an individual, right? And I want you to give me your most important, most effective and quick tips in terms of if a leader is currently facing a challenge, facing a stereotype, facing a glass ceiling, facing some kind of blocking mindset in their growth. What would you tell them they can do to get rid of this and unblock their path of growth?
Yeah, I would go back to this philosophy and what I've learned from Adam Grant, the author of the book. Just think again. So you rethink how you were thinking about this whole situation, because when you reach a block, that's really when you have to rethink. And rethink is a simple process whereby you sit down and say, "This is where I am today, but this is where I need to go. So what should I do to get there?" And here's what I should do. What are my challenges of this, right? Now, what can I learn from where I have already reached so far in this situation, right? And obviously, in the process, if we need to talk to other people, which could be coaching, mentoring, or asking questions, or it could be investing in more resources, time, and energy, or it could be completely reorganizing your strategy. But gi- giving up when you reach the location and say, well, I don't think it's possible, and giving up. And sometimes people say this, I've done everything possible to make it happen, but it cannot be done. Well, no, you haven't, because you are already giving up. So how can you say that you've done everything possible? So giving up is one thing that you're doing, which means actually that is one last option we have. So you don't want to give up. You want to complete that, right? And of course, certain things cannot be done at the moment, so it's fine. A lot of the time, I believe what happens is that we reach to a level where we say, I've done everything. Like there's this famous saying, I've done everything humanly possible, right? But you really don't know, because the human potentials is something that evolves and grows every single day. And that is really the message I like to share. When you reach that level, don't give up, but let it go and restart the whole thing again, re-strategize, rethink, recreate. That's what I call this whole think again process, where you can speak to people. And I've even recently learned that obviously we're talking about the COVID, and this is not related to the leadership, but there's a lot of people out there in the world that don't want to get vaccine. And the reason is because they have a certain belief that vaccine is not healthy. Look, I'm not a medical expert, a scientist, but I've studied some of these things because of who I have to serve and my team. And so there, in this whole human psychology process, there's a process called this motivational conversation, where you basically have a conversation with people, not forcing them to get vaccine, but you make them realize why they have to get the vaccine, and you have a conversation with them to change their belief and their conspiracy theories around why they don't want to get the vaccine. And if you do that well, everyone will change that. But the biggest problem in most countries is you are forcing them to get vaccine. You are putting bans on things to, and that's not the right process. I mean, this can be in a conversation, but my point is that when you say humanly possible, you haven't done everything, because what's humanly possible, we don't know.
Exactly.
It's evolving every day. So there's no limit to what's humanly possible, right? And that is the message I would like to give to everyone.
Superb, superb. What a blockbuster this was, Afif. I'm in awe today. I'm in total awe today while we were discussing so many things. And I'm sure the listeners have got brilliant points to note down, take action on each one of those, and then become better version of themselves. I have my pointers as well, which I will share with them all separately. That's secret. That's between the listeners and me, right? No, but I think the last bit is too good. It's just too good. What you said, that you need to think and you need to realize that whenever you say it's humanly not possible, you are really not aware of your own potentials, leave alone others, right? You probably are functioning at 20%, 30% of your potential at every time. Only when the situation demands, that's when your entire potential will come out. And time and again we have seen in the past that human possibilities, how humans can break their ceilings, push their boundaries, is just unbelievable. Right. So, therefore, do not stop believing in yourself and say that no, I can't do this because this is not humanly possible. That's an excuse. So, stop saying that. That's my last but one of the best learnings from today's podcast. Thank you so much, Afeef, for spending almost 1 hour with us and sharing all your wisdoms. And I, I can't be more grateful than this that I am right now for you to come here and share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, no, this has been a great conversation. I am grateful, and I'm grateful that we had this conversation. And definitely, our conversation, we were able to share a lot of common important points for now and also for future. And all the listeners, I'm sure you probably took a lot of notes. And what's really important is that we, and you see the last probably few months, I've been every day when I go for a run, I listen to a podcast, and I listen it first time, and then I listen it twice, and I listen it the third time, where I take notes and I then teach to my people, and I do my best to apply those things. So from our conversation today, make sure you do take notes and you do something about it. Because if you do, it will benefit you. And obviously, if it will arrest you too. So thank you. And Srijata, this was wonderful that we had this conversation today.
Super. Thank you so much, Afeef. And we'll see you in some other platform very soon. And we will talk to you again. With that, I close today's episode, and we'll catch up with you once again in another episode with another amazing guest. Thank you so much. Wow, wow, wow. What a conversation that we had today. I hope you have written down pages and pages of notes while you were listening to today's episode. Because Afeef was throwing pearls of wisdom just like that for every few sentences. I have listed down many, many learnings. How about you? So, what are my top 3 learnings? Well, when Afeef said that he is there in his job because of his people, that is what is humility in leaders is all about. When he said that he wants to really care for his people, therefore he trusted and gave his personal phone number to 600 plus of his employees while they were returning home from the pandemic, is another way to show trust as a leader. Third is, of course, when he says the organizations must take care of their employees' professional and personal development. I couldn't agree more with him on that. While that's so important, he also talked about why leaders themselves need to take care of their mental as well as physical health. Because if, as a leader, you're not fit enough, how can you support others? What has been your best learning from today's episode? What is that one thing that you are going to implement from today's episode? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more such amazing episodes and be the first one to see them while it is premiering. I will see you in the next episode of Setback Leadership Podcast with me, with another interesting guest. Till then, take care. See you. Bye-bye.